In this section of Module 2, we will explore the know and show process. This process has 4 action steps. The first is unpacking the standard. Second, breaking down the standard into the categories of knowledge and skills. Third, analyzing assessment questions around that standard that help us to see students' thinking and comprehension skills. Step 4, adjusting our initial list of skills and knowledge based on the analysis information. The TEKS resource system will serve as our main resource for identifying grade level standards. It will also provide useful documents that will provide details and specificity as we begin to unpack the standards. Documents like the vertical alignment and TEKS clarification documents will be essential. The standard that I have chosen to model for you is 6.2b. Please note that I have included the knowledge and skills statement. This is a personal preference, but I think it's very important, especially at this beginning of the year, that we review the strands for our language arts standards, and particularly this strand of foundational language skills for listening, speaking, reading, writing, and thinking, as they support vocabulary development. The SE, or the student expectation, is that the student will use context to clarify the meaning of words within and beyond a sentence. So as we begin to unpack the standard, we have a simple 3-step procedure that was shared with us by Derek Sporlak from Region 11. This small step will be very helpful as you are considering information for your know and show charts. As you look at your standard, first underline the verb or the verb phrase once. Underline the main idea or concept twice. And then place within parentheses the context or the condition of the standard. Let's see what that looks like. If you notice, I have here my anchor chart that outlines those steps for me. And here I have the standard. And in the second photo, I have done just that. I've underlined the verb to use context, the main idea or concept to clarify the meaning of words. And if you notice, I've added in the phrase within and beyond a sentence to provide for us the context or condition. This is not included in the 6th grade standard. It is implied. If you look at the vertical alignment document, it will show you this phrase is included as early as 2nd grade. Our next step is to begin looking at or thinking about the knowledge and the skills. What is it that students will need to know to master the standard, and what will they have to do or be able to show us? And the knowledge side, we're going to focus on just the conceptual knowledge. And the skills will be the verbs or the actions that they show to demonstrate that mastery. As I continue in breaking down my model standard for you, I have moved on in my chart to show that I've added the know and the show. And I'm going to begin by looking at the TEKS resources. And as I look at standard 6.2b, I'm able to see a great deal of specificity. And as I'm looking for the conceptual knowledge, the know side, I see phrases like unfamiliar words, key phrases, context clues, text features, prefixes, suffixes, roots, and then here is a great definition of context for this standard. Context can be the word, sentences, or passages that precede or follow a specific word, sentence, or passage. So this gives me a great deal more information that I can return and add to my chart. I can further look into the TEKS guide. If I can expand my window here. And as you see, the standard is printed. There are words or phrases that are hyperlinked. And if I hover over that, I can see a great deal more specificity of knowledge that I could pull from that and add to my chart. For example, I see something just as I'm scanning about authors using commas to offset a phrase or word, using signal phrases like meaning that is. So as I find more information, I can return and add this to my chart. As you see, I've marked up in this example my knowledge information. And so now I'm ready to look at the skill side, the show side. What is it that students will need to show? So just as I look for the concepts, I'm going to look for those verbs. So identifying, using, examining, breaking, confirming, restating. So those are the phrases that are going to be important to me as I fill in the show side. So I might fill this in with things like identifying unfamiliar words, underlining or highlighting words, labeling or annotating context clues, annotate or label prefixes, suffixes, and root words, restate or rewrite sentences or synonyms to see if they make sense. So as I gain more information from looking at the TEKS resource and from the TEKS guide, this is added to my know and show chart. And then I'm ready to move to the third step, which is to analyze sample questions. These questions come from a variety of resources. The one I'm showing here is an example of the Lead Forward IQ test, which is simply a star release test that has been analyzed. And so as we are analyzing this, teachers may ask questions. How many times has it been tested? How many questions were on the test? What are how is it phrased? What academic vocabulary is used? What percentage of students selected that answer? What was the misconception they had that caused them to choose that? So as teachers are looking at this, they're using that information to make adjustments in their chart and in their planning. But it's not just star release tests. There are many different types of assessments that you can use as you are preparing to analyze. The district and state and local assessment, the Lead Forward IQ, the TEKS guide will also have formative and summative assessments. The TEKS resource guide has sample questions that are star released. And you probably have a bank of teacher-created common assessments for your grade level that we would urge you to analyze for previous misconceptions, for successes, that you can add that information to your chart. The Curriculum Central, you will also have some supporting documents that may be of value to you as you are analyzing student work. That information is also combined from the TEKS guide. I found information about academic vocabulary, context, cognates, multiple meanings, and even the terms annotate and embedded. Those may be terms that I'm only going to use as the teacher, but I want to make sure that students understand those words because they're very important to that concept. Again, information from the TRS that we've added here, and then finally even that it's okay for kids to confirm the meaning of a word using a dictionary. But look at all of these skills that we think are essential for them to learn before defaulting to the dictionary. I will point out that on some charts, campuses have added vocabulary and misconceptions. This is an optional choice. You may make those notes. There's no right or wrong way to do this beyond the knowledge and the skills. It's looking at what information is most valuable to your campus and your campus needs. So once we've made those assessments, we've looked at those assessments, we've come up with our information, and you notice the post-it notes, that was the additional information that our team decided to add. And so we celebrated, we finished up our chart, and we were ready to begin collaborating on our lesson plans. And that's one important point that I do want to make, is that this whole process is not teachers working in isolation, but this from start to finish should be a collaborative project with your grade level team. Here are some sample forms that you might use as you're planning through this process. This form has a link. You're welcome to download it, adapt it to use for your campus. So again, to wrap it up, the 4 steps are, and I'm sure you can say them with me: unpack the standard, breaking it down into the categories of knowledge and skills, analyzing assessments, and then looking for those steps that kids use to show their thinking and comprehension. That is so essential. And then once we have that information, going back to those knowledge and skill statements that we started with and making any adjustments needed so that we're sure we're covering all of our bases. You will be making your own no-show charts during this module. So at any time that you need to refer back to this presentation, please do so. If you have any questions about this process, please reach out with those questions.